Graphics card pricing has gotten seriously cheap lately, and this week brought a wave of fresh new deals that brings these cards closer than ever before and even below MSRP. Could this be the best time to bag yourself a great deal on a powerful GPU? The answer might just be yes. In this video, I'll be showing you how to build an awesome gaming PC featuring the king of mainstream GPUs, the RTX 3080, for a budget of around $2,000. Don't believe me? Check out the PC part picker summary for this build: £2,118 and $2,097. Let's do this. Ebuyer's Nvidia GeForce Week has landed, with great deals now available on GeForce RTX 30 series GPUs. Pick yourself up the 3080 in this video for under £750 and a range of other cards for great prices. Check out all the details at the first link below. Let's start off the build by looking at the CPU and GPU combo that we've opted to go for, the two most important components when it comes to gaming performance. At the heart of this system is Intel's Core i5-12600K. With Intel's latest performance and efficiency cores, this is one powerful yet efficient CPU that also boasts great clock speeds and even better overclocking capability. Intel have been killing it with their 12th gen lineup, and with rumours these chips are too soon to be replaced, pricing on these is lower than ever. This chip is basically unrivaled when it comes to providing solid gaming performance. I'd recommend bumping it up to an i7-12700K or an i9-12900K if you want to do video editing and rendering on this build. But for gaming, this is a great combo. It's backed up by a 12GB RTX 3080 gaming OC. I've got to give a massive shout out to Ebuyer and Nvidia who sent this one over. It's currently available over on ebuyer.com for under £750. We're seeing similar pricing over in the US as well, but latest availability for everything can be found linked below. So go and check it out and maybe just bag yourself a deal if you're feeling in the mood. Now, the RTX 3080 is a bit of a cornerstone when it comes to high-end GPU performance. It beats out some of AMD's competition in terms of the 6900 XT, which perhaps comes closest of all of their cards, leaves the 6800 XT for dust, and also provides a really solid bump in performance over Nvidia's own 3070 and later released 3070 Ti. Plus, this 12GB model gains another 2 gigs of VRAM from the original 3080 that first launched back in September of 2020 and still provides market-leading performance. 4K, 1440p, DLSS, ray tracing, this thing ticks all of those boxes. Now, don't get me wrong, the rumour mill is alight with new GPUs, but we don't know what's happening there yet, and there's still some awesome deals to be had on what is undoubtedly a 4K powerhouse. Now, of course, we need something to install all of our components into. That's not the SSD, we're coming on to that later, and the RAM is a similar story. Instead, of course, today it is the motherboard. Now, when I've gone for the i5-12600K, I've tried to look at things from a value perspective. It's all good and well saying that GPU prices are now low, but if I go and pick up Gigabyte's $600 water-cooled motherboard or even their Aorus Master, I'm then going and wasting another couple $100 for what? Of course, a great motherboard, but not exactly getting that value for money that the whole build is designed to try and cater for. This is their Z690 Aorus Pro, so it still gives you all the great features of Z690, including overclocking support, PCI Generation 5, super fast SSD support, DDR5 memory, it's got 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, it's got all the bells and whistles we could want at a price point that is much more stomachable for those of you looking to build a system perfect for gaming at those really high settings. We're going to pull up the retention arm on our socket like so, pop in our 12600K nice and gently, push the arm back down, and the black plastic socket cover will pop off. Fasten it into place, your retention arm, and that's basically all there is to it. While we're here, we're also going to pop in the RAM or the memory. I've got a 32 gig kit of Corsair Vengeance RGB DDR5. It's the best value RGB DDR5 kit you can currently buy. It's brand new and hot off the press from Corsair, and can also sync up with some of our other components through Corsair iQ. It's low profile as well, so if you wanted to pop in a big chunky air cooler either now or later down the line, it can accommodate that. They're awesome, but pricey Dominator Platinum is very, very tall, and that can cause some clearance issues with other parts in your build. Line the notch on the DIMM up with the notch on your DIMM slot, and we'll be using the second and fourth slots from our processor today. Lovely stuff. Now, while we're here, there's one more component we can install onto the motherboard before we go ahead and move this into the case. And that is, of course, the storage. A 1TB Seagate Firecuda 530. Now, some of the latest GPUs from both Nvidia and AMD are so powerful that we need to make sure we pick up a solid SSD to drive enough data to them. Seagate's Firecuda 530 ticks literally all the boxes in this case. Whether it's speed, capacity, endurance, it really does cover everything that we need. And we've done a full review of the heatsink and non-heatsink variants of the drive over on our website. Now, if we go ahead and remove the M.2 heatsink cover a little something like so, you'll need a much smaller screwdriver than normal for this section. We will, of course, reveal space for our M.2 drive to be installed. I'd recommend a non-heatsink drive for this system, as the heatsink on the motherboard is going to do that job for us. The heatsink derivatives are more aimed at either a Seagate-centric aesthetic, or of course something like a PlayStation 5, which has no active or passive cooling for the SSD, and where an out-the-box solution just makes a lot more sense. We can go ahead and pop our cover back on. The drive's already secure at this point, so the cover is just aesthetics and cooling. Go ahead and screw it into place. Why is that not screwing in? And it's going to sit above our white reinforced PCIe 5 slot on this GeekaWhat Aorus motherboard. Now, we'll be installing the GPU in just a moment, but first we need to go ahead and move the completed motherboard assembly, as we call it, this hefty boy over here, into the case for this system. Now, I've gone ahead and picked up NZXT's H7 Elite in white. You can go for the black version of the case as well, and they also do a non-elite airflow design, as well as a non-elite non-airflow design too. There's so many different colorway options available. You can buy it from Ebuyer, NZXT's store directly. Whatever suits you, we'll link all those options down below. We've also reviewed this case, so if you'd like to learn more about it in great detail, you can. We've put it through our usual tests, and it comes out really, really highly rated for us. A great chassis, and one that's easy to install a motherboard into, as you can see now. All the standoffs and stuff here should be in the right place, as the case is an ATX design, and the built-in I/O shield on the motherboard also helps to skip out that step. While we're here, we can also go ahead and pop in our CPU cooler. Now, keeping the processor cool is important for the obvious reasons that you don't want it to overheat, but when you're also talking about overclocking, it's important to see just how much you can push it. Now, this is the fancy version of the cooler that I've opted for, NZXT's Kraken Z73, but the X73 loses the screen. Everything else is exactly the same, and it costs like half the price. So I'd recommend for a build like this, getting the one without the screen, unless you specifically want the one with the screen. Am I making any sense, Dan?
Yeah, you're making sense.
I hope that is the case. Please comment below. James, you are making no sense. Ow. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop the radiator at the top of the case in this zone just here. But before we do that, we need to add on the fans to the bottom of the radiator with the long fan screws. Once these are on the bottom of the radiator, we can screw the top of it in. Of course, these fans will be pulling air through the rad and out the top of the case. That's going to allow us to have basically a neutral pressure where we've got 3 140s coming in and 4 120s going out. With the speeds and stuff like that, it should mean we get an even airflow through the case. To install the water block, then all we have to do is pop a back plate through the rear of the motherboard. This comes included with the Kraken cooler. Then add these male-to-male posts on top and follow up with the water block. There's some complicated cables and wiring, but we'll deal with those later. Get the components in now, and the cables can last until towards the end of the video. Before any of that cable business though, we first need to go ahead and install the GPU. Now, I was kind of hoping to find a white card to fit the colour scheme, but actually the grey, black and white has turned out really well. Now, as far as performance goes on a card like this, you're able to fetch in some very, very strong numbers. We'll pop a summary of all the benchmarks we completed on your screen now, testing everything from Apex Legends to Forza Horizon 5, Battlefield 2042, and even Fortnite at competitive settings. A game where we managed to achieve some phenomenal frame rates. Whether it's 1440p or 4K gaming you're after, this card's gonna look after you, and we've actually put together a full list of all of our benchmarks for this build at the second link in the description below. Here, you'll be able to see full benchmark runs in detail of the games we tested. We were particularly pleased with our results in a couple of titles, including Spiderman, the latest game on our list today, where we tested at 4K with DLSS set to performance and high settings overall. Here we pulled in around 97 FPS on average, with really strong 90 and 99th percentile results, and as someone who's a big Spider-Man fan, this made me very, very happy. At 4K, the game looked awesome, and of course the addition of DLSS is fantastic to see, helping you supercharge your frame rates, as we've discussed in a web article over on GeekaWhat.com. Spider-Man actually supports Nvidia's performance boosting DLSS tech to increase frame rates, and real-time ray-traced reflections which enhance the game's graphics, adding awesome reflections to all the skyscrapers and buildings as you swing past. With the RTX 4080, we're getting nearly 100 FPS on average at 4K, which is absolutely awesome. Apex Legends was a similar story, 4K, high settings, we pulled in here around 119 frames per second on average, with strong 90 and 99th percentiles too. Of course, drop down to 1440p or 1080p, and you'll be heading nearer to 200 frames per second, but great results at 4K. While at Fortnite, we did in fact test at that lower 1080p resolution. At competitive settings, we pulled in 234 frames per second on average, with strong 90 and 99th percentile results here too. All of our frame rates were tested with MSI Afterburner's Riva Tuner and NVIDIA FrameView to ensure maximum fairness. Now, we'll be installing our GPU into the case a little something like so. Once again, a massive shout out to Ebuyer and NVIDIA for sending this out and making today's video possible. Without all the latest shiny hardware, we can't do our thing, and I'm really glad to see these components finally come in for awesome, achievable, affordable price points for you guys. Add in a couple of our custom PSU cable extensions. These ones come in from a company called Easy DIY Fab and really help to play into the white aesthetic of our build. We can then go ahead and plug these up to our power supply cables on the other end, provided by NZXT's C1000 Gold. It's fully modular, great for cable management and efficiency, 80 plus gold certified, meaning it saves as much of the power from your wall socket into actual usable energy as possible. Great for the current, energy crisis we find ourselves in. And it's also got a semi-fanless design, making it super quiet like the rest of the system. Repeat this process for your motherboard power cable extensions and then your CPU power too. Plug up the CPU cooler to your USB header on the front of your motherboard and spend a bit of time wiring up all of our NZXT fans to the included controller on the back of the case. And then with all the cables out of the way, all we need to do is boot the system up to see just how good it looks when it's all powered up. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to get subscribed. A big shout out to Ebuyer and NVIDIA for making it possible. And as always, we'll see you in the next one.